Well, what's up, folks? It is Friday Eve, Thursday night. It is episode 40. It seems like a minor or a small milestone, but we are at episode 40. And I thank you, the viewers, for tuning in each and every week. We appreciate it. Of course, we're on 7:30 live every Thursday during the off season, unless something changes, which we'll post it on our website at broadstreetsouth.com. Of course, it's broadstsouth.com. So we thank you for joining us tonight. And tonight we're going to do something a little bit differently than we always end up doing throughout the week. So we like to change up the show every once in a while from time to time. When we figured now would be a great time at episode 40 to do something new and a first as far as when it comes to a live show podcast. So hopefully you will enjoy this. I will cue up our DJ here, and I want to just give you a little show tune of what the DJ can do. So DJ, if you don't mind, start the show off for us. And everyone, tune in, and we'll start the show right now. I'm Angel. This is Broad Street South. All right, sorry for a little technical delay there, unfortunately, when it came to different screens. So tonight, it is an action-packed show. Of course, we do have on the show this evening Mike Kaye from NewJersey.com, also the Eagles beat reporter for the NewJersey.com. I should insert that first, and the co-host of the No Huddle Show. So Mike will be joining us here momentarily. Of course, we will have Nicholas Lisi with us, our beat writer. He's come back for a second time. I know you guys really appreciated him being on last week, so we're bringing him back as well. And Mike Sherman, the professor, the guru, and filling in for the, once again, on location, Mike Fuji will be Ryan Neff. So I'll bring everybody on. Everybody hang on for a great show tonight. Of course, we cannot forget the major sponsor of the show. We do appreciate their hospitality is Fans of Philly. Visit fansofphilly.com through broadstreetsouth.com, fansofphilly.com for any traveling needs that you need for the Flyers, Sixers, upcoming Eagles season, and even in Phillies, where they have 2 games scheduled to go up to Yankees, up to New York Yankees, and of course the Boston Red Sox. So let's get the show underway. Of course, I will bring on here, as soon as I find it, which I always end up throwing on all over the place, the Professor Sherman. So Sherman, again, we thank you, sir, for coming off a spring break. We know, once again, we got to bother you for just a little bit. And by the way, we're looking mighty young this evening. It seems like something's changed.
Yep. I decided to introduce Mr. Razor to my face. And I just want to let you know tonight, the number of the night is the number 4. And I'll tell you why. We are 4 weeks away until the NFL draft. We're officially in the 4th month. Number 4, Scott Kingery, was sent down to the minors for the Philadelphia Phillies. And, oh, yeah, for you NCAA basketball fans out there, the Final Four is set. Is anybody going to beat the Gonzaga undefeated team of this year? Anybody? We shall see.
That we shall see indeed. So it's going to be interesting. We'll get into NCAA talk a little bit later on. Of course, there's a lot going on both on the male and the women's side. We can't forget about the women as well, but there's a lot of good matchups coming up here this upcoming weekend. We shall see what's going to happen here with the Final Four. And, of course, filling in, pardon me for losing the voice there a little bit, Ryan Neff, who is visiting, and Fuji will be back. He is in Alaska for those. Again, we mentioned it on the Tuesday night audio podcast. If you guys didn't download it Wednesday, please go back to broadstreetsouth.com. You can find it on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And he is in Alaska because they're trying to get a field hockey team together, so we sent him out there on assignment. He will be back by next week. So, Ryan, thanks again for joining us tonight. We do appreciate it.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Mike was muted. Sorry about that. How the hell is everybody, especially since your Phillies won today?
Oh, we're fantastic, and the Pirates are 1-0 as well, so you never know. Could be the NLCS.
Yeah.
That it should be. And, of course, tonight as well, we have, as I mentioned just a couple seconds ago, and I will bring up his Twitter handle here so everyone can, as long as I do the share screen, and then I can actually bring him up. So this is the joy of things that can go goofy. Of course, Mike Kaye, the Philadelphia Eagles beats reporter from NewJersey.com, the co-host of the No Huddle Show, that can be found on iTunes. Click on the link. You can find the show on iTunes. He does an excellent job. As I was describing to Mike off air before we went on air here, the best way to describe his show is he can get you pumped up, but it's so mellow that you want to just jump up and say, man, he made a good point, but where's my glass of wine and or my beer? Because I'm feeling really mellow at this point. So without further ado, we will bring on the man himself. Mike, how are you this evening?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem whatsoever. And again, it's not because you're on here with us. As I stated to you off air before we went on air here, and I see the comments, I'll be getting to you guys momentarily here. And girls, very good job on your podcast. I enjoy it. Your co-host as well. I mean, you guys do an extra job going back and forth. The emergency podcast, which is, I think it was like 19 minutes long, if I remember correctly, like real quick, but to the point, as you described that we should have been talking about, I believe it was Anthony Harris that you had mentioned on your podcast. Mm-hmm. And things went kind of crazy because the Eagles ended up making a blockbuster deal. So I guess to kind of start off there. Oh, and before I forget, because I do have him waiting in the background, Mike, is also our beat report I want to add here. Nicholas Lisi. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great, fellas. Thank you so much for having me on. I can't wait for a great show.
Not a problem. So, Mike, getting back to you, as far as we know that the Eagles ended up adding the free safety Anthony Harris, which we knew that was kind of like the bigger splash the Eagles were going to end up doing here. Kind of surprising, but not kind of surprising. But again, was supposed to be the big name, not Joe Flacco. But hey, we can talk about Joe as well. But then the news drops, and then the Eagles decide to move down to 13. So what can we expect with and I don't want to give away as far as when it came to your podcast, but what can we expect now with the Eagles? Because we thought it was going to be with Kyle Pitts as far as a pick. But there's a gentleman that I have a clip, locked up here. And the first initial starts with J, in which we know is Jeremiah. Do we believe that the Eagles went down to 13 to possibly land Jeremiah?
Jeremiah? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So what is his complete name? Jeremiah Owen.
Jeremiah. Let's call him J.O.K.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. They actually went to 12, but yeah.
12, yes.
No, I do not believe that they did that specifically for him. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to project the board that far down, but the main reason why you saw them trade back is, look, 2021 is going to be an incomplete fact-finding mission for a lot of teams. You've got a lot of players who had to opt out of the season, in the college season. Scouts haven't been on campus in over a year. There's not a lot of opportunities to get some fact-finding in person. Pro days have been limited attendance. There's no combine. We missed out on Indy this year. So as I said on the podcast, it's kind of a minefield for mistakes. You're going to miss probably more in this year than you probably would in another year because the medicals aren't as decisive. The character issues aren't as well documented. It's much easier to avoid or deflect a question in a Zoom interview than it is to do so in a one-on-one interview at the combine. And so when you're looking at 2022, having a better understanding, hopefully college football will be back. Everything will be back to normal. The Atlanta Falcons just mentioned that they're going to play in London this year. So there's this thought process from the league that once things get back to normal, 2022 is going to be a big deal because it'll be the first off season in 2 years where you're going to have a full off season. You're going to have this full fact finding in front of you. And maybe teams are going to be able to find more value next year than in this year. They also saw that the offense of this class is going to push a ton of really good defensive players into that 11 to 20 range. And so if you have 5 quarterbacks going in the first 10 picks, maybe 3 wide receivers and then 2 offensive linemen, well, from 11 to 20, you're looking at cornerbacks like Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn. You're looking at Jeremiah a.ka, as you mentioned him. You're talking about Michael Parsons. You're talking about all of these really good defensive players. And when you look at the way this roster is completed, if Jonathan Gannon, the new defensive coordinator, wants to change things up and move that into Mike Zimmer's image, they're going to have to make a lot of changes on defense as well.
All right. Sherman.
Mike, you talked about the lack of teams in the NFL being able to hit on their pick the deeper that they go in the first round. And I get it that the Eagles have so many holes to fill. But wouldn't that be more motivation for the Eagles to stay put at 6 to get that definitive corner piece for the puzzle that they need, whether they decided to go with one of the 2 wide receivers from LSU and Alabama or Kyle Pitts rather than trading back to 12?
I think what they saw was that the value from 6 to 12 as far as talent wasn't that far off. Also, when you can get a future first-round pick for going back 6 picks ahead of the draft, that's a smart move because when you look at what the Eagles have right now, they have 4 picks in the top 100. They can easily trade back up, by the way. I don't think they're going to pick at 12. I think they're either going to trade back to get more picks or they're going to trade up if somebody like Jamar Chase falls or Kyle Pitts falls. But here's the thing. Everybody's assuming that Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase would make it to 6. That's almost not going to happen, okay? The Falcons definitely have a lot of interest in Kyle Pitts. He makes a lot of sense for them at 4. Arthur Smith's a former tight ends coach. And then when you look at 5, the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, I mean, recreate the magic there. So if both those guys are off the board and you're like, well, I'm forced into either picking Devonta Smith or Jalen Waddle and nobody's trying to trade up with me, I'm not getting the value that I want, right? So the way they looked at this is, so, okay, this is a great, Thomas, get that out of your mind. Get that out of your mind. The Cowboys have won 3 playoff games in 25 years. The Giants have been one of the worst drafting teams in the league for the last 3. They have the worst record in the league of the last 3 years. It doesn't matter. You've got to make your team better. And the Eagles are set up in 2022 to really contend. They're going to have a lot of cap space. They're hopefully going to develop some of these players. They hired coaches with a lot of development experience and a lot of defensive coaches with scouting experience. So that helps them on that end. When you look at the Doug Peterson era, they got off to a fast start and then completely kerplopped because the staff couldn't develop anyone. So I think this is a different angle. I think a lot of us are looking at this within a lens of, hey, it's going to be more of the same from the same regime. This is a completely different group that has different strengths and weaknesses.
All right. Ryan?
Well, Mike, I mean, let's be honest. The only reason why they traded out of 6 is because they couldn't get Wilson up at number 2. I mean, that came out that they could not get the quarterback that they wanted, so that's why they traded out of that spot. So
you want me to squash that?
What's
that's
that?
Not true. But
well, that's the information that came out across the board.
And
so they wanted Wilson. So whoever leaked it should be shot. But I mean, if it's not true, then it's not true. But that's the information that
they were
saw.
interested in him. They liked him. They didn't try to trade up for him though. There was discussions. Okay. It's not. But yeah, to your point. So go ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to.
So it's. The conversation I was having with the fellows last week is when that information came out, it was almost like I was trying to explain that Jalen Hurts has almost become the Carson Wentz of this year because the other things that I've seen come out are the fact that people within the organization, plus the coach, aren't really sold on Hurts as a full-time starting quarterback. So I try to tell the Drew Sherman that there's 2 scenarios now for them sitting at 12. Either they're stockpiled some picks so that they can trade up a little bit to try and target the guy that they really want if they don't think that he's going to fall, or they've stockpiled the picks, they drop back, and if it's not going the way they want it to go, they're going to try and trade out of that pick to garner even more picks for next year.
Well,
so
yeah,
I guess
logical. Yeah.
So I guess my question to you would be, is this a throwaway year? Obviously, to me, that's what I'm sensing. This is a throwaway year. And 2, are they stockpiling all these draft picks to focus on the 2022 and 2023 seasons?
So first off, love your beard. Second off, so here, let's break this down, right, into everything we talked about, okay? Jalen Hurts, right? The Carson Wentz of this year, whatever. Completely different scenarios, in my opinion. So Jalen Hurts played for better or worse, 4 games. Looked good, in game number 1, looked really good, albeit, in a losing effort to the Cardinals in the second week. Looked terrible the week after. Looked good in the first half. Why on earth should anybody be sold on him as the starting quarterback? And this is coming from a guy who thinks they shouldn't draft a quarterback this year. I'm a believer that he should get a year to prove himself if you've invested that much in him. If you liked him that much to screw up what you had with Carson Wentz, which I'm not saying they presumed this was going to cause an issue, why not see what you can get out of him? Part of the reason why this team has failed Carson Wentz and Carson Wentz failed them is because they didn't properly build around him. This is a year to build around the quarterback position because the way they did it before didn't work, right? So you had a coaching staff that couldn't develop wide receivers. You had a new wide receivers coach every single year. You had a running backs coach who wanted a bigger role, didn't really handle the rotation very well. You had a bunch of injuries on the offensive line, which is the strength of your team. And that all kind of cascaded into this awfulness of last year. I think when you look at the Anthony Harris signing, to me, signing a 30-year-old free safety who just played on the franchise tag doesn't show me you're tanking. Signing Joe Flacco doesn't really show me you're tanking. I don't think they're tanking, but what I think they're doing is they're letting Jalen Hurts prove that he can be the guy. And if he can't, they've got a crap load of insurance for next year. So like we talked about earlier in the podcast, 2022, again, is a fact-finding mission compared to this year. 2023 as well, you're going to have the cap space in order to spend. They know they're not competing for a Super Bowl this year. That's a fact. That is a fact. So, yeah, maybe they can contend for a playoff spot, but if you're not contending for a Super Bowl, what are you doing? And to your point about Zach Wilson, let's say they did want to trade for him, right? If you can't get your guy, don't force the quarterback pick. That's the problem with a lot of these teams is they force the quarterback pick, then set themselves back for years. I mean, it's a lot better than a couple of, like back in the Sam Bradford days where if you missed on a pick, you were financially just dead weighted to a guy. Now you can do what like Arizona did where they quit on Josh Rosen immediately and then went to Kyler Murray. That's fine. But realistically, for the Eagles, they haven't picked in the top 5 more than I want to say 3 times in the last 15 years. Like, this is a team that has to see the value in, wow, we just failed Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz, a guy that we drafted, we handpicked, we traded up for him, and we didn't build around him. And now we're going to ask the next guy to come in and do the same thing and just fail, especially when this offseason could be dealt with COVID. I just don't see what the positive is there unless you love the guy. And so trading out to me said, hey, at worst, we view Jalen Hurts as the 3rd best quarterback in this draft, whether you agree with that or not. We also know that if we want Russ, speaking from the Eagles front office perspective, if they said to themselves, we would like the opportunity to grab Russell Wilson. If all this stuff clears out with Deshaun Watson, we can compete with basically anybody. They own the draft board next year if Carson Wentz leads the Colts to the playoffs or plays 75% of the snaps. So the possibility of having 3 first-round picks when you can potentially work the board in your favor is basically what they were trying to do there. I don't think Jalen Hurts is being set up like Carson Wentz. And what I will say is worrying about Jalen Hurts' feelings is a tad misguided because he's not Carson Wentz. This is a guy who is, I wrote about it when he made his first start. He's a coffee bean. He affects everything around him. Everything around him doesn't affect him. His mindset is not, if you think he's reading articles and searching his name on Twitter, he's not doing that. That's not the type of guy he is. So
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, here's my counter to that, though, and I want you to explain it to me from the Eagles' perspective. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're not sold on Wentz last year. They wouldn't have drafted Hurts. If they wouldn't have been sold on Hurts, I mean, if they're not sold on Hurts this year, or they wouldn't have showed interest in going to go get Wilson. That's my thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
They're not sold. They're not sold. Well, why should they be sold?
To me, he's a lame duck quarterback, just like Carson was last year.
Not if he balls out. The reason why Carson Wentz was a lame duck quarterback, let me tell you something. They did not want to make this trade. They did not want to make this trade. There were people in that building that were really upset about trading Carson Wentz. The reason why this discussion happened is because Carson played poorly. It's not because Jalen Hurts was this like complete linchpin of terribleness to this organization. If Carson Wentz puts up MVP numbers, we're not even talking about Jalen Hurts. They drafted Jalen Hurts because he was a cheap backup who, you've got Carson Wentz who's got a history of injuries. He's never won a playoff game. All this other stuff. He was insurance. They value the quarterback position more than any team in the league. They drafted him. He was a cheap backup. You were about to enter the extension phase of Carson Wentz's contract, so you couldn't afford an expensive backup like you did with Josh McCown or Nick Foles or Chase Daniel. That was their thought process. Trust me, they would have preferred for Carson Wentz to go up and lead them to NFC championship games and stuff like that and have Jalen Hurts sit on the bench. That was not the case. I understand that's the logic that everybody wants to jump to, but the reality of the situation is, one, they shouldn't be sold on Jalen Hurts at this point. He's got to face competition. You don't just hand the guy the job after four starts. But what I will tell you is the locker room's heavily invested in this guy. The young wide receivers love him. The older guys love his competitiveness. They love his leadership. This is a guy who's going to go out there and earn it. He is definitely built for Philly. When other quarterbacks, let's put it frank, were not. And so I think these are different situations in the fact that the Eagles shouldn't have to just hand him the job. They don't owe him anything. They don't owe Carson Wentz. They didn't owe Carson Wentz anything either. This is a business at the end of the day. And if they saw the opportunity to upgrade over him, they should have looked into that opportunity. The bottom line is, if you're not trying to get better, you're not trying to appease your fan base. The Eagles fan base constantly wants to get better. So sticking with the norm, if they don't think that he's going to be great, doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, listen, that's all very good cases in point. And I want to play, because I know we have to let you go here momentarily, but I want to play we went with JOW for the initials here. I want to play the press conference from Jeremiah after his big day, and what he had to say as far as the feeling of being in Philly. So I want to get your take on it, Mike, before we go.
Speaking in terms of the Eagles, I think I fit better than the other guys in terms of my mentality. Going back to that, the Eagles is a place that's is a gritty place. You got to be, you got to have some fierceness to you to survive in Philly. You win in Philly, they love you. If you lose in Philly, they hate you. So you got to be able to deal with that. And coming from my background, even here at Notre Dame, it's a lot of situations that I had to persevere through, and I think that first and foremost, my mentality prepares me more than some of the other players in terms of Philly, in terms of my athletic ability, in terms of my physicality on the point of attack, physicality in terms of block shedding. I think I excel in a lot of things if we're comparing other guys, but in terms of Philly, I think that's what separates me.
So I'm wondering, how much homework did he do on the Eagles to understand the way the Philly fan base is? So, I mean, I love the answer, don't get me wrong, but I'm wondering, does he feel maybe that Howie will come calling?
I mean, look, this is the draft. You've got to sell yourself, right? I mean, you're getting less opportunity. We talked about the fact-finding mission. You're getting less opportunities to sell yourself to scouts. I mean, I think, I've been on all these Zoom calls. These Zoom calls can be snoozers, but man, that was a hell of an answer. Last year, if you remember, Denzel Mims upset a lot of people by how he kind of, down-talked Philly. I mean, look, this is a tough place to play, but when you're winning, there's no better fan base, right? So I think that's something you have to understand, and I think that's something agents really try to explain to players is, look, this isn't going to be easy, but if you're successful and you're the guy as advertised, they'll love you. Look at how Jalen Hurts was treated after they beat the Saints. I think this is a fan base that is always hungry for a winner. The issue is this is a 3-year rebuild, and a 3-year rebuild doesn't mean that you're losing and you're a bad team. It means that you're building to sustain winning. And this team, whether you want to look at the Chip Kelly era or 2016, those were not rebuilds. Those were reworkings. They didn't gut the entire team and go on youth movements. This city hasn't gone through a true rebuild since Andy Reid got here in '99. So it's about adapting to expectations. And I think you guys are right in your thinking that this is a team that is. I think calling it a punt year is wrong. I think they're going to try to compete. I think they'd love to win. I think they would love for Jalen Hurts to lead them to a 10-6 record. But I also think they have to be realistic. And, we've learned from the NBA that if you're not competing for a championship, what are you doing, right? So you want to sustain winning. You want to be able to sustain success. And the reason why the Eagles weren't able to sustain success, they weren't good at developing players. They weren't good at drafting players. And they were signing a bunch of old dudes. And, 4 of us on here are old dudes, I would say. We got the young pup right here. I mean, I'm probably the oldest of all of them. But look at it this way. You guys have been around. You guys are around. We've been around. We saw the 90s. We saw what the Ray Rhodes era brought on. And so then you look at how Andy Reid did things. Joe Banner and him, they rebuilt this team with young players, with leader. They got rid of Troy Vincent, the Bobby Taylors, all those guys. Brought in Lito Shepherd, Sheldon Brown, Michael Lewis. Jeremiah Trier left for a while. They brought in Stuart Bradley. They brought in Moses Foku. Throughout that era, they were constantly filling out the roster with young and old established talent. They were just getting old here because they couldn't develop anybody. So you've got to spend more money, and you get yourself into this position where now you've got $6 million in cap space. You really can't sign anybody, and you really have to rely on the 11 draft picks that you have.
Yeah, listen, great case and everything. And yeah, we've some of us have been around. I think maybe the oldest two is the guy right above me as well. We're very similar in age, so believe me, we've been around long enough, I think, to basically write a book as far as the experiences with the fans, with this team. I mean, we've seen all the ups and downs. We get it. We understand it. Nick Sirianni's got a lot of work to do coming up here during the offseason before the draft, obviously, during the draft, and then to start getting ready for the OTAs, all the good fun stuff. And then we wait to see, as Troy Vincent said, we're waiting to see what's going to happen with the COVID protocol, if the teams, when they're going to be traveling, for how many days, all the good fun stuff. But we hope at least the fans will be allowed back in the stands, as it did today at Citizens Bank Park, where the Phillies put off the win 3-2. So we're hoping that everything can come back somewhat to our normal. It would be fantastic. And even for you guys, because I know it's hard for you guys to do the Zoom calls versus being in the locker room with the players where you can get more stories and be more personal. So I would imagine you as a reporter, it's got to be tough just on the Zoom factor alone, because you guys have what I would assume about 20 people, but then you have to wait and they take you guys in and out.
Yeah, it's basically like how you guys are interviewing me, except without the long-winded answers from me. I guess they're more tight-lipped, right? But last year was a challenge, but it gets you. If you're good at this job, you find new ways to tell stories, and you find new ways to appeal to a fan base. And I really enjoyed last year for a lot of different reasons. I think it helped me, change up my toolbox a little bit. And
right.
We're always busy. Look, before I got into beat writing, I was a draft analyst, and I would start my draft studies the week after Thanksgiving. I've watched maybe 20 players so far this year because of the coaching search, free agency, a lot of stuff going on, right? So the Carson Wentz trade, there's never a dull moment here. Never.
That's true.
I told you guys off air, I came from covering the Jaguars. It's two completely different speeds. And I love writing for this fan base. I love covering this team. I love chatting with guys like you guys. I like being on these shows. And I appreciate you guys having me.
No, not a problem whatsoever. And if case, just so I can bring the screen back here momentarily, if you guys, and I'm going to bring down this one screen here temporarily with the DJ, but if you guys want to follow Mike Kaye, of course, it's Mike_E_K. Again, the Philadelphia Eagles beat report writer for the Arbors from NewJersey.com, and also the co-host, again, of the No Huddle Show, and you can look for it on iTunes. You can click on the link there, and it'll take you straight into the iTunes. And just as I do, we hope to encourage everyone as well to be able to at least follow Mike the way I do, so you can get anything breaking from NewJersey.com, especially from Mike, and listen to the podcast. Again, I don't say things on here because I listen, I'm a guy, Mike, and I will tell you the way I exactly feel. I will never hype up anyone's show if I know it's complete and utter garbage. That's you can get 100% truth from me. But for the fans out there that want to listen into, again, a podcast where you can either drink Coke, wine, or a beer and get ready to get pumped up and just calm down a little bit and get that's the No Huddle Show. So by all means, listen to it on iTunes. Mike, we thank you for coming on tonight. I know you're extremely busy. We know we have to get back to work and doing other things along with the family. So thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a great discussion.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mike. Appreciate it.
Happy Easter.
Thank you.
Happy Easter.
So, all right, now I'm back with the guys. So Sherman on the spotlight there, and Nick. It's not obviously to take away from you here. We had about 15 minutes with Mike, so we're trying to get as much as we possibly could get in there.
Angel, it's all good. I'm excited to chat with Mike. We had a great conversation off air. Just learn a little about what he wants to do, and hopefully I can work my way to get him. He's very analytical and he's very well spoken in his responses. So we appreciated the time with him.
No. Listen, we try to, like I said, just it's to bring different people on to so everyone can get a perspective. Like for example, Sherman did a great job with Rough Cuts Sportscast. Those guys, even though they're not Eagles fans, they're not remotely anything in the NFC East fans. But what they talk about as far as the Jaguars and the Atlanta Falcons, but they do go around the NFL. They do a fantastic job doing what they do. And so Mike actually tuned me in to those guys, and they do a good job. I mean, we try to just like Mike has said off air with us, we try to network with other folks as well. So everyone gets a different perspective. And same way with us. We're diehard Eagles fans, don't get me wrong, but we like to go around the NFL as well. At the end of last season, that's where we started to do even more. This year will be no different. We'll start off with the Eagles, of course, because it is our hometown team, even though I'm down here in Tampa. And then we'll still take it around the NFL so we have everyone in tune in case we have folks from like Arizona and the West Coast, as far north as Canada, and even on the eastern side of the world where we do have a couple of folks that tune in from Germany, which is pretty nice. So, well, Sherman, you brought up earlier, of course, the number 4. Now, for those who didn't tune in earlier, could you re-explain again why you chose the number 4, just like you chose what number last week? Number 5.
No. Well, last week it was number 5 on the Tuesday audio show, and I encourage anybody who's watching the show tonight to go to our RSS feed and listen to the show that we had on Tuesday night. But I talked about the number 17. But the reason that I talked about 4 for tonight was for 4 reasons. Number 1, we are in the 4th month. Number 2, there are 4 weeks until the NFL draft. Number 3, the final 4 in the NCAAs are set. Is anybody going to beat the Gonzaga team? Who knows? And finally, for Phillies baseball, number 4, Scott Kingery has been sent down to the minors.
Yeah, that's true. And Sherman, did we find it surprising that he was going to be sent down to the minors? Because the talk was originally that he may travel the team up to Philly, but a good possibility he would be sent back down to Clearwater, and also that it could be a possibility that he could be also traded as well. So I'd like to get your take to see what you think was going to happen with Scott Kingery.
Well, they've invested a decent amount of money in him, and I think anybody in the tri-state area or nationally who wants to root for Kingery to succeed wants to see him succeed. But if you look at how bad he was last year in that COVID-shortened season, it was definitely a bad situation. And if you look at how he was performing in spring training this year, he just wasn't cutting the mustard. So I think that management needed to make the decision to help rectify his swing in the minors, and hopefully he'll be back up with the team at some point later in the year and be a major contributor to this team.
Well, we did see, and I'll get back here to whoops, hold on. I'm gonna bring in this comment as we continue the Phillies talk here. Who wins the beer contest tonight? That would be Neff. Ryan wound up winning that one because Sherman went with the young look. So if you guys, to kind of flash you back, of course, this is episode 40. We started with a little bit of music, and it's not the way the audio should have come in. So we're going to give it a shot here in the future. And I'm sorry if anybody got kicked off the Facebook feed, because I always tend to forget as well. When you do play other music, you may end up getting kicked off momentarily. Then you have to come back because of copyright. So I did forget all about that, and that's why the music got cut off as well. So in case no one got cut off there in the very beginning, that's one of the reasons why. But the DJ and Art and us will end up talking about that afterwards. So hopefully everybody got to taste a little bit of it and we'll fine tune it where I end up being a little bit better. Because again, it's episode 40. We're very thankful for everyone tuning in and watching us for the 40 episodes, especially now with episode 4 even on the audio side. And I will emphasize again, if you guys did not hear the Women's History Month episode, please go back and hear it. That was such a fun night. Yes, it may be 2 hours long, but I tell you what, you learned so much about all the ladies we had on. And it's, don't get me wrong, we talk about live sports and their lives in general. So it's not like, it's a show where, oh my God, I have to hear a certain thing. No, it's a combined plethora, I guess if you want to call it, of information from all the ladies. And it was a lot of fun. Even the Mrs. Shermanator was on that night, and she gave us a lot of great insight to how she got her business started, her marriage to the professor, and how it all got kicked off. So please go back and view that episode as well. So Women's History Month, look for it under BroadStreetSouth.com, and I greatly appreciate it. So as I'm scrolling through here, the comments, Phillies look, again, I will say for game one, pretty solid. There was times where they can look a little iffy. We know obviously there's 161 games to go, so it's not like we're in dire straits. Today being April Fool's, some people wish that the Phillies end up losing. Sherman and I'm pretty sure like other fans were hoping the Phillies would end up winning. So it's good to see that the Phillies start off on the right foot, but I'm also interested to see between Ryan, Nick, and Sherman. This year, Girardi has a much better pitching staff than the season before. Do we expect, and we hope, and I use the term loosely, that all these guys will put in a great performance throughout the year, and it doesn't seem like anybody right now has been plagued by any injuries. So Sherman, I'll start with you first. The rotation that right now Girardi has, do you like the rotation, or do you believe there's going to be adjustment as obviously we see other games going on in the season?
Well, I think that Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler as your 1-2 are a very solid punch for this NL East and even for Major League Baseball. I think that a lot of pundits out there are putting a lot of stock in Zach Eflin, thinking that he's going to be some 15 to 17 game winner. And while he's had some shades of greatness in his career, it's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that he's going to be that guy. I think a lot of the season really depends on how well he does. If Eflin can be the guy, a 15 to 17 game winner, then yes, I think that the Philadelphia Phillies will be in business to contend for the wild card or maybe win the division. I'm just not sold that Zach Eflin is going to be that guy to be able to do it. I have concerns about the fact that Hector Neris has been named the closer instead of Archie Bradley. They specifically got Archie Bradley in the offseason. Why did they get him? They got him to be the closer, and he's not even closing to start the season. If you've watched some of the previous programs, I do not like Andrew McCutchen in that leadoff spot. It doesn't mean that I don't like him. I think he should be batting 6th in the lineup. Take some pressure off of him. And I know that he led off with swinging at the first pitch and roping a single into right field. But you know what? If he swings at that first pitch and he ends up grounding out to second base, then all of a sudden it's like, Kutch, what are you doing? You're the leadoff guy. You're supposed to work counts. But getting back to your question, I think that the pitching overall is an upgrade from last year, so hopefully that'll help. But just watch out because the NL East has some bruisers in there between Atlanta, the Mets, the Nationals, and the Miami Marlins, who historically give the Phillies a hard time.
It's true. Ryan?
You know what, guys? I'm old school. I never understood why. You remember when we grew up, when we were younger, you had starters, then you just had a reliever, and that was it. Now you've got relievers and closers, and then you got a setup guy in the 7th inning, and I don't understand any of it. It's like Sherm said, it's definitely an upgrade from last year. I think where the Phillies might bump into some problems is in the bullpen. I just believe with the way baseball is today and with the way rotations are and the way they've got, like I said, the relievers and the closers and, you don't know who the hell's who anymore, and the setup guys for the closers. And, if you've got a solid bullpen to go along with a decent pitching staff, I think it'll take you far. So I would like to see the Phillies bullpen step up. So I'm going to see how it plays out maybe for the first month and a half. And then, it's like Sherm said the other day, maybe Girardi and the organization have to go after another solid starter or like a top-notch shutdown closer somewhere just to bolster it. So, we'll have to see. But it's like Sherm just said, it's the staff that they have now is a hell of a lot better than it was last year.
Right.
Wow. So I personally, I am not a huge Phillies baseball watcher, but to Ryan's point about the fact that there's so many relievers is, I think personally, probably one of the smartest things that teams are leaning towards nowadays. I mean, Aaron Nola, he's great, and he went 6 2/3. That was like one of the highest amount of any pitcher today. I personally believe that the Phillies need a lot better of a bullpen. They have maybe 3-4 solid guys, and I'm excited to see what Bradley can produce out of that bullpen. But for now, I'm very curious to see where the Phillies go. Aaron Nola is obviously your solid number one, and then after that, honestly, it's just a big question mark. And can you win baseball games like that? I don't think so. I think they're going to have to rely on a solid bullpen, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy out of the bullpen get dealt at the deadline if the Phillies start struggling really bad here, and maybe they only have 40, 50 wins by the All-Star break. So I'm very curious to see where the Phillies end up taking this route, but I'm still a big question mark on that pitching staff, and I honestly would rely a lot more on the hitters. They can't score only 3 runs a game, and think they're going to win every single one. That lineup needs to step up. I mean, they have paid money for that lineup, and that lineup needs to do some big stepping up here.
So now I'm going to randomly, of course, comes to this question here because we know it's opening day all around the league. There's some late games because of the West Coast start. So I believe the Chicago White Sox don't start until 10 o'clock tonight, which then, of course, would be 7 o'clock on the West Coast. But opening day. So, and Nick, I'll start with you here. We know that obviously every year we go through spring training. We can't wait for all the baseball fields in America to be open again so we can go through, it's grabbing, whether it's a hot dog and beer, peanuts and beer, whatever it is that your choice of food or beverage. As a kid, when you're growing up, most of us end up playing baseball. Some of us probably love it more than others if it's your choice of sport, but you end up having a lot of fun with the game itself. You get to meet your friends throughout high school. Maybe you try out for the team and you're able to progress through college and even possibly into the minors until you finally get to the majors. So as all of us here in this room, if you can share maybe what opening day feels like to you or your experience if you've been to an opening day, because I know it's kind of hard to put words together, and the reason why I'm hinting to it, because it's hard to put articles together real quick. But speaking of articles, if you guys go back and you look at BroadStreetSouth.com, Nick, our beat writer, put an outstanding article together, and I want you guys and girls to go back and read through the article that he had submitted. I mean, it is absolutely fantastic. So if you guys want to get into a good read, by all means, take a look at BroadStreetSouth.com. And Nick, I do appreciate you putting out the article. Excellent work by you. So Nick, I want to go to you first. What does opening day, I guess, mean to you?
Well, I want to thank you for the shout out on the article. I had a great time writing that one, and I'm excited to write my next one. But opening day, it means a lot to me. Baseball was my first love. It was the first sport I played. And, today, I'm just a college student. Today, I got to sit in my dorm and I got to watch 4 hours of Yankees baseball today. And I got to watch, Judge choke at the end. And I got to watch Gary Sanchez actually look like he remembered how to swing a bat again. So opening day means a lot because it's the time I get to see some of my favorite athletes go. And I think now baseball is getting more and more flashy. And I'm loving watching these kids like Fernando Tatis Jr. and Ronald Acuna just light it up on the field. So it means a lot. And I'm very glad that I got the opportunity today to sit down, watch a little baseball, watch a little bit of the Dodgers Rockies. And, we're back. We're in baseball. We got 7 months of this madness, and there's going to be a lot of injuries. There's going to be a lot of ups. There's going to be a lot of downs. It's going to be so much fun just to get to watch all these guys play.
It's true. Sherman?
The red, white, and blue bunting. It looks so visually appealing on television. Walking into the stadium for that first time after a long fall and a long winter and just smelling the ballpark food and the ballpark beer and just the hope for every city that has a Major League Baseball team in the United States of America and any other city as well, because let's face it, in Omaha, Nebraska, I'm sure that there's people in that city who are rooting for a particular Major League Baseball team. And it's all about hope. that first game of the season where the stadium is packed, right? Before COVID, right? There were only 8,800 people in the stadium today. Although in Colorado, they had a full stadium today for the Dodgers-Rockies game. But still, it's that hope in the beginning of the year. Even if your team is slated to only win 65 games this year. Ryan's a big Pirates fan. He told me off air, well, my Pirates are out of it before the season even started. And look what the Pirates did today. They won. They're 1-0. Look, is it going to be the Pirates and the Phillies in the NLCS? Probably not. But there's hope. At least for a couple days, there's hope until the bottom drops out, and that's what it's about. The weather's starting to get warmer, and it's a lot of first loves for a lot of people, right? I remember playing with my brother and Mike Fuji, baseball, where we set up the lawn chair, and the lawn chair was the strike zone, right? You throw that wiffle ball and it hits the chair, and you don't swing. That's strike one. It's fantastic. Love it. And the Phillies are 1-0. Let's keep it going.
All right. Ryan?
Well, for me, when I was a whole lot younger and when baseball was baseball, before the whole free agency and all the inflated contracts or whatnot, baseball to me was right around the corner. It was warmer weather. It was getting together with your friends and throwing the ball back and forth. It was taking batting practice with your friends. It was the camaraderie, the team concept, learned at an early age. But it was almost the end of the school year. The summer was right around the corner. The smell of the grass coming in, the smell of the leather, from your baseball mitt. We used metal bats, obviously, in little league and high school or whatnot. So, it was the cling, coming off the bat. So, just those types of things that take you back on opening day. But, and then with opening day, if you watch, it's the crack of the ball off the wood. It's the fwat of the baseball, hitting the catcher's mitt with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. So, that's what it meant to me, when I was younger growing up. Not as much today, but, when I was growing up and baseball was baseball, as far as I was concerned, that's what it meant to me.
I know I will speak obviously for myself here. And as a kid, when you watched them on TV, and if for us, we were fortunate because there was a baseball field not that far away from our house. So when you started learning the fundamentals of baseball, you figure out what was going on. Obviously, there's a ball, there's a bat, there's a glove. You put that concept together, they got a baseball game going on. The more you hung out with your friends at the ballpark, it was almost like, and good Lord, am I drawing a blank when it comes to the movie? What's our throwback movie here? Sandlot. There you go. So you get kind of that feeling with the Sandlot where you get friends together. That's when you start kind of meeting more of your fan base. If you were a nerd like I was when I was a child, Nerd Central was great at baseball field because that's where you met other nerds. And it was great because you can pull out stats and talk about who's batting average and what. And then as you grow older, you become, an adolescent area into a teenager, and you start loving the game more. Then you start wishing, man, I wish I could be the next Mickey Mantle. I wish I could be the next Babe Ruth. All these guys, Roberto Clemente, why can't it be like those guys? Well, because some people are fortunate to make it in the majors, some don't. But you see the progress from these guys from the minor leagues to major league. And then when you get the first experience in a baseball field, like I got at Veterans Stadium, you walk in there and everything encapsulates, meaning that from a child, from learning the game until you walk in through those gates and you look around, you're pretty much in awe because wow, this is what it takes just to be a fan in a place like the Vet. And then once Citizens Bank Park opened up, same thing. If you weren't young enough to be at the Vet. So for me, it's just like Sherman said as well. It's the smell of the hot dogs. It's that ballpark feel. It's knowing that the Phillies are going to come out from center field and take them steps and go right out, onto the field, take the American flag out. Like everything that builds up leading up to it. We're coming out of the winter season, going into spring, everything's starting to change. Flowers are starting to blossom. So it to me, it's so iconic that it's hard to describe. But this year, more than anything else, as we saw last year, it was taken away from us because of the virus. It's nice, even if Citizens Bank Park wasn't sold out, it was nice to actually see fans versus cardboard cutout. And I'm pretty sure the Pandemic crew had a lot of fun out there today when they were able to join the festivities out there. So, still at the age of 50, it's it seems like opening day should be almost like for an entire week. Yes, we know there's opening day, opening night, and entire opening week. But opening day should happen at least every day for 1 week, which it feels like for me. But that's kind of like my take with opening day. So I absolutely love it. And I see Joey has here the MLB All-Star Game should bring back the two teams playing in their home and away uniforms. Add the pageantry of that game in baseball. Which, good point there, Joey, because I will ask this question as we have a couple minutes left here. Sherman, and we know they took away the DH rule for this year, right? The one thing I don't like, and I think they should take it away from the All-Star Game, is the winner, the one who wins the All-Star Game gets to obviously host when it comes throughout the playoffs. So if the American League wins, the American League team, whoever wins, obviously blah, 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 gets to host it throughout. And then the NL. I haven't heard of any change, at least that I know of. Do you still think that it should be home field advantage during the All-Star Game?
It's a completely ridiculous rule. The All-Star Game is exhibition. The team that should get home field in the World Series every year is the team that had the best overall regular season record. Period. End of story. If you want to go back and forth similar to what they're doing in the NFL with Week 17, where AFC is hosting the extra game this year and the NFC is hosting the game next year, I get it. I guess you could do that because you're talking about a regular season game. But as far as the World Series going, and it's all based upon which team wins in an exhibition, is completely ludicrous to me. Completely.
Yeah. Nick, how do you feel about it?
So I do believe they actually did change that. I think they changed it in 2016 that they got rid of that rule. But in terms of the All-Star Game, I think they could do a lot better in terms of making it an entertainment event. I think MLB is it's not behind the Pro Bowl because the Pro Bowl is one of the worst events alive. But in terms of an MLB All-Star Game compared to an NBA All-Star Game, they can, I'd love to see MLB put on their captains draft their team, just screwing around, have fun, and maybe put like the donations, the charity, and we see the NBA do it with the social injustice movement. Mm-hmm. MLB, maybe pick a cause that you care about. Right now, Asian American hate is huge right now. That is huge right now. So why don't you, MLB, say, hey, let's donate $50,000, let's donate $100,000 to these two charities, and based on who wins in each inning, we'll throw out another $50,000 to wherever you want to, whatever charity you want to donate to, whether that's most pitches taken or most pitches thrown. Just pick a little fun little prop and donate to charity more. But I think that will be All-Star Game could definitely be more entertaining, and it could be a more exciting event to watch other than just a couple guys just playing a regular game of baseball.
Yeah, Ryan, your take.
I don't know. I've always sort of been on the defense about it. I know that it's a lot different than the other sports. I've always thought the All-Star Game should have been just on a rotation. I've never bought into the whole general rule about, World Series winner gets to do this and X, Y, and Z. I've just always thought, why should other parks be missing out on the All-Star experience?
Right.
And so, the cities be missing out on that. I know it would take forever and a day, but I just always thought that one year it should be in St. Louis, and then the following year maybe in San Francisco, and the following year, down in the Astrodome. I just always thought there should be a rotation of stadiums, across the board, just to get other cities involved, so that they can experience it rather than the way it's been. If the NFL is going to have all of a sudden a 17th game after a 16-game schedule for 43 years, why not? Baseball needs to come up with something better than what they already have. That's where baseball, like I said, it's lost me over the years with some of the stuff that they've done that I just don't understand it and I don't get it.
Well, Mark's got a question here. He says he would love to hear our picks as far as for National League and American League champs here. Even though it's the beginning of the season, one blowout today they're still playing. It's the top of the ninth. The Royals and Rangers 14-10 right now. The Royals on top of the Rangers. I do believe. What happened?
I set the mic earlier in the day when it was like 8-7 in like the third inning. I'm like, just watch the Rangers-Royals game might wind up like 21-17.
Yeah.
It might be getting there right now. It's
Oh,
definitely
man.
a football score at 14-10. And I do believe the Texas Rangers also today they packed the entire stadium, but then what is it? Saturday night for first night, they're going down to like 2,000 fans, which I thought was kind of bizarre. So you sell out game day, and again, I don't know. We know COVID is still out there, so it's almost like so you have COVID is not available on Thursday, but it's available on Saturday. It's kind of like my little take on it because you have all these people packed around you. We know we're wearing masks. We're doing all the safe things that we're supposed to have. Don't get me wrong. And again, I'm not knocking COVID. Anyone who's had it, I hope that you've made a full recovery from it. But it's kind of odd that they would do a complete sellout today, even though they can't open up the roof over there. But they do a complete sellout today, and then Saturday night they just decide to do their own little thing where it's kind of like backwards. But whatever.
Well, Angel, let me throw out a little support for the Rangers here. They just built a new stadium, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe Texas is one of the most loose states when it comes to these requirements.
Right.
So for the Texas Rangers, if you're going to fully sell out on a Thursday, those ticket prices are going to be super high because it's a brand new stadium. It's the first time that they're letting a full packed house. They want everyone to feel that environment. And then once that Saturday comes and they realize, oh, wait, this is the Texas Rangers we're watching here, and these guys aren't that great, then you go, okay, well, we're still going to keep these ticket prices super high because it's a super exclusive event. But then you also can say, okay, well, once game time comes around and everyone kind of realizes like, oh, wait, these are the Rangers we're watching here, and we're getting like a third-level starter, a second-level starter here, then you could say, okay, now we can wait until game time, try to sell as many tickets as possible, and then immediately try to drop the ticket price as fast as you can and try to get more fans in that stadium and fill the seats as best as you possibly can.
No, I don't know. Again, I may feel different from what everyone else is feeling right now with COVID. I'll keep that personally to my own self, but I hope just that everyone does the right thing wherever stadium they go to, whichever state they go to. I know Florida, it's getting a little more lax, obviously, because there's tons and tons of vaccinations going on down here. So now it's finally getting to that little bit of the comfortable stage, not to the point where they've eased up on everything, but at least now where it's getting a little more comfortable where people can just breathe a sigh of relief a bit more, even though they do say there's a fourth string that's going around. So the Rockies and Dodgers are also 8-5. And interesting if the Padres, as I'm looking at the score here, 8-7 when it comes to Arizona Diamondbacks. If I had to go with someone right now to answer Mark's question as far as on American League, the Rays were there last year. I don't think the Rays going to have a repeat performance like the way they did last year. And, of course, they came up short to winning the World Series. If I had to pick someone right now for the American League, I think San Diego's got a good shot this year to winning the American League Championship. So, Sherman, I guess you can go here next as far as from the AL side. Who do you believe would end up winning the AL Championship this year?
Well, from the AL, it's going to be the Yankees, and for the NL, it's going to be San Diego. That's my opinion. Yankees, San Diego for the World Series. San Diego will be competing with the Dodgers for that first-place spot. The Dodgers are really good at this point, but I think that San Diego will be able to compete with them for a majority of the season. And even if they get into the playoffs as a wild card team, they've made some nice additions to that pitching staff, and we know the pitching wins championships. I'm going Yankees, Padres. I know that the Yankees lost today, but it's a 162-game season.
Right. Yeah, and that's true because, sorry, brain fart there. Yes, San Diego National League team. The Yankees, I was going to flip back to the Yankees, but Sherman, I agree completely. I think the Yankees will pick up right where they left off last season, so I will agree there wholeheartedly. Nick, your pick for American League, National League.
So I'm a huge Yankee fan. Been diehard since day one. Watched Derek Jeter's 3000th live. But I have zero confidence in my fellow Yankees. Their bullpen is worse than it was last year. Voigt's now out till June. I watched Jay Bruce hit today. He might be the worst hitter I've ever seen in my life. The Yanks, I really hope they can make it back, but I really don't think they got a chance. I'd like to see if the Astros can try to get back there because they're, somehow they always get back there. And I really like this Blue Jays squad. They got a nice young group. They got Vlad Guerrero, they got Bo Bichette, and Bo didn't look great today, but I mean, the Blue Jays are looking real right now. And I honestly, I would probably take the Blue Jays in the American League, and in the National League, I definitely would have to take the Dodgers. Kershaw looked okay today, and he looked good enough for me to think, oh yeah, he'll turn it back on in September. And it's the Dodgers. They got Trevor Bauer, they got Clayton Kershaw, they got Walker Buehler. They have the best rotation in the league, and honestly, their rotation is so good that they have some of the best bullpen pitchers in the league as well.
Well, interesting as far as the Blue Jays. Of course, the Blue Jays can't play at home because Canada still has a restriction and the boys can't come back. They can leave and not come back, just like the Raptors have finished off the rest of their season here in Tampa. So they've had, I think now their 5th game with fans in the stand after they started their 1st game with fans in the stand. So their fans are finally getting back there. So Toronto will play in their high school upgraded stadium in Dunedin. And I think I have some pictures. I'll send it to you guys. But interesting enough, they did a nice job as far as upgrading the ballpark. But when you go there, it does give you a high school feel as far as the team. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lot of home runs being knocked out of that park. So interesting enough. But the teams will enjoy the area. It's really nice for sure. So, Ryan, your choice, AL, NL.
Well, I normally go way out on a limb just because like 90% of the people will go chalk. I'm a little bit worried about the Dodgers just from the standpoint of it's hard to make it back 2 years in a row. San Diego has a lot of firepower. I'm a little bit worried about their pitching staff. You know, they're going to be competing with the Dodgers. So I'm going to go way out on a limb in the National League, and I'm going to say St. Louis makes it from the National League. Under the radar a little bit, you know, it's just a hell of an organization for baseball. It's always run well. You know, that's my pick. I'm going out on a limb. And in the American League, I'm also going to go out on a limb because everybody's picking the Yankees or, you know, the Indians are up and coming in this, that, and the other thing. Everybody's got the Astros making it. I'm going to Oakland A's. So I'm going to say it's going to be the A's against the Cardinals in the World Series because that's just what I do. I go way, way, way over here other than chalk because it just mixes it up a little bit.
There you go. Mom agrees. Go Cardinals. So she agrees wholeheartedly. And that's, to me, that's amazing. So what was the word that we used? I don't know if it was Sherman or not. When we talked about betting, but it was for entertainment purposes only.
For entertainment purposes only.
There you go. So if you guys have Monopoly money, bet on what Ryan just said and just, you know, bet the house. Throw in your whole Monopoly money because it's for entertainment purposes only. I want to get back here before we end the show, Sherman, we talked about it, and we're going to flash back here to the Eagles. We talked about the number 17 on the Tuesday night audio show. We know that the NFL has incorporated now 17 games into the season. So game number 17 will be played on the road in Indianapolis, if I remember correctly.
The schedules have not come out yet, but we do know that the extra game that the Philadelphia Eagles will be playing whenever that's scheduled will be at the New York Jets.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because we were in last place and the Jets were in last place.
All right. Sorry. So I stand corrected. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate it. So adding game 17, Sherman, do we feel, would it be a benefit? And I know we talked about it briefly here on the Tuesday night show. Do we then take away a game away from the preseason? Do we take away all games away from the preseason? Or do we add, which of course, I don't know what the NFL is going to do as far as the league. Do we add an extra bye week to make the players happy that, hey, by the way, we know you're not getting paid extra for week 17 this year, but it was discussed 2 years ago. What do we do to make the players happy and I guess also make the fans happy?
Well, I think if you're going to make the fans happy, then you want to have more games that actually count. I honestly think for entertainment purposes, if it wasn't for those entertainment purposes, I think that football might be a dead sport in this country. It's still the most popular of the four, but, you know, you throw those entertainment purposes in there as well as fantasy football leagues. If it wasn't for that, I think that there would be a lot of people who wouldn't be viewing as often. And if you don't believe me, you know, next time you're watching a football game, observe the people who are in the bar or at your home with, their entertainment purposes that they're involved in. So I think to make the fans happy, they would probably want to see more football games that count. But for the people who are actually getting paid, I don't think that they want to be getting paid the same amount of money to be playing 17 games instead of 16 games. So it's really going to be something where they have to come up with a happy medium. And as Ryan has talked about on this show before, don't be surprised if you see some phantom injuries coming up for some of these players who are getting paid a lot of money. Because, look, they put it all on the line every single week, and all of these players are one hit away from potentially ending their career on a freak hit. You just never know.
No, you're right on that behalf. And the reason why I kind of went back to this one as well, because Ducky, and by the way, hello to Ducky, Tom, Joey, all you guys who tune in, Mark, Mom Lisi. Of course, we saw with go-karts here. So Ducky says, do you think, and I was trying, and as I was flipping through earlier, he says, do you think that Joe Flacco will this year, what number will he wear this year? So I'm trying to think what Flacco wore in the past. I don't even know what's available this year. I don't know.
Didn't he wear 7 before?
He wore 5.
That's right. It was number 5.
I don't think he'll get number 5.
Yeah, I don't think he'll wear number 5 either.
No. So we go with 4.
I think he'll pay for it. They'll pay for it.
Really?
He'll pay. Yeah.
0.
I think he'll pay.
I mean,
even if $5 for it.
Even if he tries to pay for it, the fact that McNabb played for the Eagles for so many years wearing that same number, I think that'll be a really tough sell. How funny would it be how funny would it be if Wentz ended up wearing number 11? But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I guess we would need to go down the line. Let me take some time to think about that, and then I'll try to make my selection for that. I guess my selection would be number 8 at this point, but that's not really based upon any major merit at this point.
Well, for Wentz, he can't wear 11 because Michael Pittman, one of the receivers, is wearing 11, and Michael Pittman came out publicly and said, "Carson Wentz, you will not get my number. Screw you. I don't care how much money you pay me." So Carson Wentz, I believe, is number 2. And for Joe Flacco wearing 5, unless Donovan McNabb's jersey is retired on the Eagles, which I'm not sure if it is or not, if I was Joe, I'd be like, screw it, I'm wearing number 5. I honestly don't care. I'll be here for like a year, and then I'll get out. So it's like screw it. Why not? Why not wear number 5?
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion when you talk about numbers, and I would love for the fans to chime in with this as well. Thinking about the Philadelphia Phillies, there are 3 people who have worn the number 10 during their stints with the Phillies, and all 3 of these people are prominent players. Number 1, Larry Bowa, who wore the number 10. Number 2, rest in peace, Dutch Dalton, who wore the number 10. And number 3, our current catcher, JT Realmuto, who's on the 5-year contract, who's also wearing the number 10. When the smoke clears and all is said and done, who do you think will be most remembered and adored for wearing that number 10 in Philadelphia for the Phillies? I'd be curious to hear what the fans have to say. I think that Bowa's number could have been retired, but it wasn't, and I get it. But I'd be curious to hear what people have to say about that.
That's true. Good point. And by the way, you can leave comments. If you don't get the chance to do it tonight here, you can leave it on the website, and you can just go under the comment section and put it up there, what Sherman just asked. So by all means, utilize the website as much as possible here, broadstreetsouth.com. That's broadstsouth.com. Well, again, we'd like to thank DJ Bink Brizzy, which we were hoping to get a little bit of a better outcome. But again, things happen when you do it for the first time. Things get a little bit rough. Unfortunately, the feed on the website stopped because if I had my thinking brain on tonight, I do tend to forget that depending on what kind of license you have, you can play the music. So the feed stopped because of the music playing. So the next time around, we'll work things out and make it a little bit better. But it happens. It's what makes all this stuff just the melting pot of what is Broad Street South. So we'll get back. We'll get DJ back on and we'll just mix it up. We'll make it a little bit better. We'll fine tune it, and everything will be okay. But again, Tuesday night when we had our show, he did make an intro for us. Next Tuesday will be a complete different intro. And the idea is for the fans, for you guys, to be able to vote on it and which intro you think will be best. And if you guys missed that cut, again, go back to BroadStreetSouth.com, look for under iTunes, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify, so you guys can listen to the audio portion of the show from Wednesday, and you'll hear the actual intro, what DJ Bink Brizzy did for us, a.ka Mike West, and we do thank him for it. Of course, we also thank Mike Kaye for coming on with us from NewJersey.com, the Eagles beat reporter, and also the co-host of the No Huddle Show. So thanks for Mike. Ryan, we thank you for filling in for the on assignment Mike Fuji, and the poor guy, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back home, and you would think he'd come home to warmer temperatures, but it's cold back in Philly, and it's going to be cold, I guess, this weekend if I looked at the forecast correctly.
Weather's about to get.
Yeah, it's going to warm up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So if not, he can always swing by Tampa, warm up, and then head back up north. But he's doing a fantastic job with the Alaskan field hockey team, and I'm pretty sure he's going to have some exciting news of what goes on with that team over there. So we're dying to hear what's going to happen. Sherman, I thank you so much for coming on. And by the way, could you please tell us about Burke's Boutique?
Oh, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have the plug. My wife runs a boutique. It's called Burke's Boutique. If you go to burksboutique.com, she sells women's clothing, all sizes. Check it out. She has a giveaway that's going on tonight. So right after this show, if you want to log on to there and see what she's giving away, check it out. BURKESBOUTIQUE.com.
Well, thank you, Mike. And of course, Nicholas Lisi. Nick for short, for those of us who have gotten to know him. By the way, do not let him fool you. Once again, Trevor Lawrence, we try to get him in the background. He wasn't available tonight. We understand, Trevor, you're getting ready. It's pro day, all the good fun stuff. But Nick, thank you so much again for the article, for coming back on with us. And of course, you're always welcome to come back. We know you have a lot of stuff going on here with Clemson, but I want to get the feel too before we sign off here. Even though, we make fun, obviously, of your roommate, which is not Trevor Lawrence, but we're going to say that he is until the day that you vacate the premises. What's the buzz around campus as far as, we're leading up to the pro days, we're leading up to the draft. What's the feel like there in Clemson?
It feels, honestly, I'm just really glad I'm able to be on campus. Trevor's pro day was, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. He just recovered from shoulder surgery, and we just figured out last week that he's actually going to be here watching the draft live with his family and his current fiance. So incredibly proud of what he's doing. And and our spring game is actually this Saturday. So I know a bunch of people who are going to end up going to that game, and it's going to be a fun time to, get to football again. Actually, I got an email trying to get season tickets. They want me to get season tickets for Clemson football this year. So it's super exciting on campus right now. The vibes are immaculate, and I can't wait to see these young guys come in for Trevor and Travis Etienne and the rest of the squad and prove to everyone why Clemson football is the best football you can get.
Angel, just real quick.
Sure.
The whole buzz around Lawrence, but I wanted to pick Nick's brain. What's the buzz around ATN, where he might go in the draft, or what teams might be interested?
That's a very good question. Around campus, none of us really talk about Travis Etienne. I actually haven't heard too much about him, but in my opinion, I think he's a mid-second rounder. I think a lot of teams don't agree with that. I think a lot of teams are thinking late first on him. Travis really struggled last year running the football. His running, you can blame it on the line, you can blame it on him. Doesn't matter. He really struggled, and he fumbled, I want to say, at least 3 or 4 times. And sometimes in some big moments, he fumbled the ball. So I personally think he's a mid-second round pick. I think he's going to be a great pass catcher out of the backfield. He worked on that a lot going into his senior year. So Travis right now, I think, is a mid-first round pick. And I'd be excited to see if the Packers take him because, they just lost Jamal Williams. And I think an Aaron Jones, Travis Etienne backfield would be kind of fun to have, and have Travis be that kind of pass catcher, learn under A.J. Dillon, and have a good time doing that. So I personally think Travis would be great there, and I think he'd be great anywhere that a team wants a running back and a guy who's a real family guy and wants to instill that family-like culture into their locker room.
Great. That's good stuff there. And, of course, we can't forget also Fans of Philly, the official sponsor of Broad Street South. Fans of Philly, if you guys want to travel like a champion, by all means, please go to fansofphilly.com. Sherman, on our last episode, of course, had an interesting story when it came to his travel woes when it went to Boston. It's funny because I did rehear the podcast afterwards on the audio side to make sure the audio was good. So if you guys want to hear about that travel, go back again to the website, listen in on from Tuesday night. Sherman, if I remember correctly, we talked about that.
Yeah, it was Tuesday night towards the end of the show. I don't know have the exact time as to when it happened, but it was towards the end of the show. But listen to the whole show because it was absolutely fantastic. But if you specifically want to hear that story, fast forward towards the end of the show.
Yep, that's true. So, but also, if you guys are looking for a great package to put together, call, excuse me, if I can get the words out of my mouth here, Joe at 610-517-7171, 610-517-7171, and or email Joe at fansofphilly.com and let him know what kind of package you want to put together here for, again, they're going up to Boston, they're going to New York. The Eagles were waiting to see what, the entire schedule is going to end up being because there's a Vegas trip. There's also a Denver trip. So there's different trips going on. The Flyers, maybe not so much because they're going in the wrong direction as we're coming off on playoff hockey. But hopefully they'll come back to the right direction. And if they do, hey, book your flight with Fans of Philly in the entire package. So you guys get the room, the bus, the ticket, the whole 9 yards. Visit fansofphilly.com. Of course, you can click on the link to our website at broadstreetsouth.com. So, gentlemen, I see one more comment here before I end up signing off here. Juru's Boston experience. Yeah. So, David knows all about it. So, again, thanks to everyone tonight for tuning into the show. We do appreciate everyone for always tuning in. This was episode 40. Again, we apologize at the very beginning if anyone got kicked off whatsoever because I do forget that YouTube and Facebook, of course, for copyright purposes, kicked it off because of the music, but we'll get it all straightened out so you guys can enjoy more music here in the future. We will see everyone, of course, live next Thursday. Next Tuesday, we'll have another audio show that will be released next Wednesday, but you guys can catch all of that stuff, the replays, everything else on broadstreetsouth.com. So for Nick, Ryan, for Sherman, I'm Angel. Thanks for watching. We'll see everyone next week.